How nutrients replenish into the soil? This is our question. To understand this, first we'll understand why nutrients need to replenish into the soil. When plants are growing, during that process, all the sodium, potassium, phosphorus, this type of nutrients that are present will be used up by the plant. As a result of this, gradually soil will become deprived of those nutrients present in the soil. Okay, but naturally there are some methods by which the nutrients are added back to the soil, like when leaves of the plant shed, when the stem parts, fruits, or some of the fruits are shedding over the soil, they are gradually degraded by the microorganisms and they are added back to soil. This process takes few days to weeks, but the speed at which we need the growth of plants is more. Why? We are our population is increasing. Since population is increasing, more products, more rice should be produced, more oil should be produced, more grain should be produced. If population is less, what happens? If you produce suppose if there are only 10 people in a house, if you produce some amount, something like a few kgs of rice, it will be sufficient. But if the population is more, what happens? More amount of produce need to be produced. So growth of plants is more when compared to minerals that are added back to the soil. So what farmers are doing nowadays is they are adding manures. Manures are chemical substances. They are adding chemical fertilizers. Chemical fertilizers are being added. What are these chemical fertilizers? And you can find a number of chemical fertilizers. One example you take urea. This when these substances like urea, ammonium nitrate, ammonium sulfate, ammonium products, these all are added to the soil to increase the soil nutrients. Okay, what happens if the more nutrients are added to the soil? Soil will get more nutrients. As a result, plant will grow very fast. Okay, that is a positive side. We have to see the negative side of this also. If anything occurs naturally, it's okay. But when we interfere with that natural process and we are spoiling the process, some way we are spoiling the process. How? These chemical fertilizers which are added to the soil kill microorganisms present in the soil. If microorganisms that are digesting leaves, okay, microorganisms are killed. Microorganisms are killed. These microorganisms are very important for degrading the substances and adding nutrients to the soil. But when we are not allowing that to happen, we are adding more chemical fertilizers. These microorganisms will die. As a result, what will happen? Soil will become very unfertile. Soil becomes very unfertile. Soil becomes unfertile because this kills microorganisms, the organisms which are helping to circulate the nutrients in the soil, all will die. So, is there any other methods by which these nutrients can be added back to the soil? Yeah, there are other methods, I'll say. So, you take the example of leguminous plants and root nodules. Root nodules, these are root nodules. These are roots of leguminous plants. Leguminous plants. This is a symbiotic association. You know, yesterday we have discussed about this. This is adding the atmospheric nitrogen to the soil and it is converting into nitrite, nitrate, ammonium like this compound. So what will happen? One way naturally to grow this. So one is the way by which nutrients will be added to soil by using chemical fertilizers. Second is these all alternatives that I have said you. One is here we saw roots, leguminous plants. When they combine with Rhizobium leguminosarum is a bacteria, it helps in fixing nitrogen to the soil. The nitrogen in the atmosphere will be fixed into nitrate, nitrite and ammonia. By this way, nitrogen is added back to the soil. Okay, Rhizobium leguminosarum fixes only with the leguminous plants. What about other plants? There are certain bacteria like nostoc, anabina, azotobacter. These bacteria are not they are not having any symbiotic association. They can grow freely in the soil and they are used to replenish this soil nitrogen directly from the atmosphere. By the same method, nitrogen is converted into nitrite, nitrate, ammonia by these bacteria also. They can be used. Okay, what about potassium and phosphorus? There are some fungi like mycorrhiza that grow into the plants. So this is a plant. So this is a plant, the blue color one is plant and red color one is mycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza can grow its root-like structures too deep into the soil. Compared to plant, it can grow into deeper soils and it can extract all the phosphorus and potassium that is present in the deeper layers and supply it into the plant directly to the cells. Why? Because this mycorrhiza is a fungus. It grows into the plant also. Okay, so these are not harmful fungus. They are useful for absorption of potassium and phosphorus by these plants. Okay. So this is one example by which you take the example of vermicompost. Vermicompost is the process of growing earthworms. Earthworms are grown usually in the soil. These are earthworms. This is soil. Over this, all this red color one is organic matter. Any organic matter can be used. For example, take garbage of that is food waste that is coming from house or waste peels, vegetable peels, what do you say, fruit peels, food waste, straw. You take the leaves, banana peels, grass, dry grass, wet grass, anything can be used as a manure. And even the shit of animals, cow dung, cow dung, the peat of cattle, all this can be used and it can be sprinkled over this. And it should be always wet. If it is not wet, earthworm will die. You know is the reason why earthworm will die if it is not wet. Earthworm breathes through moist skin. If skin is not moist, earthworm will die. So this is all maintained wet, sprinkling water at regular intervals and covering those small soil beds with gunny bags which are wet. Also this also helps in keeping the soil wet and keeping the earthworm skin moist. And this earthworm takes this food material into its body, digests it, excrete in the same soil. By this way, the soil will be replenished with the nutrients, and earthworms go up and down, and because of this, the nutrients get mixed very well. By using the sieve, like the soil sieve, which is used in construction sites, that type of sieve can be used, and all the earthworms can be separated from that soil. And the soil that is filtered from that vermicompost is very good of nutrients that is directly sprinkled in the fields. Okay, one layer of this vermicompost will be sprinkled in these fields, and from there the plants that grow also very tasty. The fruits that come from natural manure will be very tasty because those fruits also will be very full of nutrients. You can take this method. This method is called as green manure crops. The green plants can be grown in the crop fields. Any crop field, like you take rice, is to be grown in the next Kharif season or next Rabi season. Before that, 15 days of gap may be there. 1 week, 1 month of gap may be there. In that time, some green crops are grown in the fields. Take, for example, lobia or green gram. Any green plant can be grown. There is no restriction, which grows very fastly. And all these plants are grown above the soil. And during the crop season, when crop season begins, at that time when plowing is done, along with those plants, that plowing is done and all those leaves are added back to soil. So when leaf is added back to soil, naturally nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium will enter into the soil, and that soil will become rich of nutrients. So this, when the leaves enter into the soil, they are rich with nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, and that helps in replenishing the natural nutrients in the soil. Right? Okay. That is about how replenishing of soil takes place. And the next topic, cell. The last topic of this chapter is cell. Okay, what is cell? Cell is the smallest unit of any living organism. Any living organism. That means all the living organisms are made up of small, small structures called cells. You take, for example, this floor on which I am standing. It is made up of small, small units called tiles. Tiles are set together to make this floor. This wall, the wall that is made is made by using bricks and cement. So that is the unit, that is the smallest unit of a wall. Okay. You take, for example, okay, pot is there. Pot is made up of small, small mud particles. Mud particle is the smallest unit of that mud pot. Same like that, our body or any other living organism's body is made up of cell. Okay, this cell is called as structural and functional unit of life. Structural and functional unit of life. Why it is called as structural and functional unit of life? Structural because it is making the structure of any organism by joining small what is a small cells only organism is formed, so it is called structural unit. Functional unit because each and every function occurs at cellular level. You take, for example, digestion. One cell will participate in digestion, then only complete digestion occurs. Respiration, each and every cell of our body will participate in this respiration process, then only respiration completes. So functioning of an individual occurs also at cellular level. That's why it is called as functional unit. If you take the components of the cell, usually the cell is having an outermost membrane. This outermost membrane is called as cell membrane or plasma membrane. Cell membrane or plasma membrane. In this cell membrane or plasma membrane, there is a structure in center which is very important part of the cell. This is called as nucleus. This is the brain of the cell. The complete cell depends upon this nucleus only. This complete functioning of the cell depends upon the nucleus only. So it is a very important part of the cell. Very, very important part of the cell. Okay. Excuse me, children. Yeah. And there is one liquid that is floating inside the entire cell. This liquid is somewhat thick, jelly-like, and this is called as cytoplasm. It is called as cytoplasm, right? So the central one is nucleus, cytoplasm. In this cytoplasm, in this liquid, there are other substance, small structures that are floating. There are other structures that are floating. You will learn in your 8th class, children. Don't worry. Each and every structure I'll say you in this one structure. I'll explain you how it is structured, how its function is there. Okay. These all are called as organelles. Organelles. Okay. There are different names for organelles like mitochondria, vacuoles. chloroplast, ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, like this. There are different organelles. We'll discuss about those all organelles in detail in your class 8. Presently, understand that here organelles are present. Right? So this is a basic structure of a cell. In the cells of certain organisms like plants, bacteria, or for example, fungus, this type of organisms have a little bit different cells. They have the cell membrane is present or plasma membrane. Around this plasma membrane, there is one cell wall. One cell wall is present outside. Cell wall, this is plasma membrane. So this type in the center, nucleus will not be at center, it will be in corner. There will be a very big organelle called, this is plasma membrane. There will be a very big organelle called vacuole. What about other organelles? They are also present. Other organelles are also present, but largest will be vacuole. In case of which cells? Plant cells or plant cells, mostly plant cells. Okay. This type of cells are also seen in fungus, bacteria. Okay, but major it is a plant cell. Right, that is the difference between a plant cell and animal cell, children. Okay, this I hope you have understood today's topic. We have completed our chapter also, our time also.